and welcome to Winterwatch 2022. Now, I know winter can be a bit of a harsh season. The weather's often unwelcoming. On a really cold, blistery grey day, then only the hardy put their winter woolies on and venture out to look at wildlife. But on a day like today, when the sun's out, the sky is blue and there's crispness in the air, it can be such a fantastic time to get out and about. On a day like today, this season can be beautiful, magical and incredibly rewarding. So let's delve into some winter wildlife wonders with four passionate people who are out and about whatever the weather. There's Lucy Hodgson, who likes to get her fingernails dirty as she explores the little creatures in the leaf litter in a woodland. Robert Cruikshank, who's made a passion out of watching pine martens in his back garden in Oban. And an incredibly inspirational young man called Alex, who hasn't let his sight impairment dampen his enthusiasm for wildlife photography. But let's start with a birder from the Midlands, who's going to introduce us to a very elusive and quirky winter bird, the jack snipe.
Jack snipe are a delightful, beautiful, enigmatic species of wading bird. Jack, because they're small, that's one of the old English names for small things, a jack snipe and jack pike and what have you. And enigmatic because we know so very little about them. One of the main reasons we know so little about them is they're very difficult to see. They hunker down, they stay completely flat on the ground, and they don't move unless you get very close to them. My name's Colin McShane. I'm the kind of person that likes finding things out. I was a scientist by trade and a science teacher. And when I hear that we don't know much about something, then it's kind of natural for me to want to find out. I'm part of a volunteer ringing group called Belvide Ringers, and this is a site that we use both to census birds and to catch them for ringing. And what we've got is the top of an old colliery spoil heap, and you get little slivers of water, particular poor grade vegetation, but it's exactly what snipe and jack snipe need to hunker down in through the day to roost safely. When we first arrived at this site 6 years ago, we knew there were birds here, but we didn't really know how many because we couldn't see them. However, shortly after that, we became aware of these machines. This is a thermal imaging camera. Thermal imagers respond to heat, not light. And for that reason, most of the time, thermal imagers are used by birders at night. It can be used during the daytime. To find jack snipe, I gradually walk slowly through the area looking for a bright white speck, which will be, I hope, a jack snipe. 1, 2, 3, and there's 4 jack snipe within about a 20-metre circle of where we're standing now. There's the bird that we're going to go for first. The technique that we try and use is to let the bird think that we've walked past it and then put the net on when we've actually walked past it. Gently take the bird out of the net, and there we have absolutely gorgeous jack snipe. You see the pattern on the back, the relatively short beak and relatively long legs. What a gorgeous little bird. We are starting to build up a picture of where some of the birds go. So we think there are one group of birds that stay here all winter. And we're getting more evidence of that from recaptures of birds which are being caught in the surrounding fields. But we also think there are 2 other populations, one of which are birds that seem to call in the autumn, stay here for a little while, and then move on through to Ireland, down into France, Spain, and so on. And then the third population, which seem to drop in here on their way back, feeding up for a few days or weeks before they then fly off back across the North Sea to their breeding areas. Superbly, this bird's already got a ring on. It's NP10608. I actually ringed it originally in March of this year at this site. It's been from here in March to Scandinavia or Russia, and it's come back to this site. And there's evidence, if ever we needed it, as to how important sites like this are. Birds know where they are, they know they're safe, and this is one that's come back for just that very reason. This thermal imaging camera is turning on its head what we thought we knew about the population of this bird. There is an estimate that says there's 110,000 wintering jacksnipe in the UK. The reality is that we don't have a clue exactly how many there are. I ring around about 30 or 40 each year just on this little site. How many other sites like this are there that are simply we don't know about because nobody's looking at them using thermal imaging cameras?
We've come to one of my favourite spots in the UK. It's called Coombs Valley. It's a pocket of ancient oak woodland hidden away in some hills in Staffordshire. I particularly love coming here in autumn and winter because you get a lot more weirder treasures, which is the type of stuff I'm into, some of the weird stuff. I'd describe myself as a nature nerd. For me, a lot of the joy in looking at nature is all about those unnoticed things that most people wouldn't ever see. We're looking for things like beetles, fungi, creepy crawlies, living life under the leaf litter. This looks like a brilliant spot. You can see here we've got a nice mix of trees, so we've got some oak, we've got some alder, and if you have a look, it's a really thick layer of leaf litter. There's absolutely loads here, so this should be a really good spot to have a root. So you might think like in winter it's really cold and a lot of our invertebrate life, it disappears, you don't see it as much. But the thing about leaf litter, it's quite magic really. It has this kind of like little subclimate underneath the top layer. So even if there's a frost on top, if you lift those up underneath, it's just those few degrees warmer. And so that means things can stay active all year round. You can have minging fingernails. Ooh, springtails. Springtails used to be classed as insects because they've got 6 legs, but they're technically not. There's a whole gang of them. There's over 300 species in the UK, and in a single square metre of leaf litter like this, you can have over 40,000 individuals. They've got these things on their underside called furcular, which are kind of like a jumping mechanism, and that's where they get the name springtail, so they boing when you disturb them in the leaf litter. They've got these funny little bulbous bottoms, and they've got these little dark beady eyes and these little antennae. And then they hop around as well. They're absolutely gorgeous little things. They're just joyful. At the age of 22, I knew absolutely now about nature. I couldn't tell you the difference between a blue tit and a grey tit. And fresh out of uni, I got a job with the RSPB. And I went on this kind of learning journey for about a year. And right at the end of my first contract with the RSPB, I started getting some weird physical symptoms. And it wasn't very long before I was actually diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma just as I turned 23. So I had this 6 months of chemotherapy facing me. So I decided to kind of grasp the opportunity, which might sound a little bit weird. But I spent those 6 months just running around outside as much as possible and self-taught myself British wildlife. That's when Lucy Lackman was born as my Instagram name, and I just kind of started this British wildlife blog. Right, so I don't have a really expensive camera. I mostly just use my phone for all of my photos. And I have got a special little tool that I use when I'm photographing little critters. So if I take this really cheap little lens, and this is brilliant for getting close-ups of any insects or creepy crawlies. You see detail, you see patterns, you see structures that, I mean, in my opinion, are much more interesting than mammals. Sorry, otters and bats and everything else, but the intricacies of an invertebrate body structure are just, I could stare at them all day. They're just so complicated. It's kind of been like rock pooling of the woods. You know that feeling when you're excited what you're going to discover in a rock pool at the seaside? It's a little bit like that. So this is why I get weird looks. I walk around with things like washing up balls and soil sifters, but these are absolutely brilliant for just filtering those creepy crawlies out of the soil. So if I get a few handfuls of this, just chuck it in. And the idea is that we can shake all the little critters loose into something nice and white so we can see it nice and clear. So if I just shake that like this, I can already see there's a bit of movement in there, and it should just bash anything little that's clinging on in there into the bowl. So let's get down and have a look at this now. So you can see a few little springtails here, there's a harvestman just here, what looks to be a snoozing, hibernating ladybird. There's all sorts of things, tiny little spiders, lacewing larvae, they're predatory, so they hunt other insects and they'll eat them. They've got really quite ferocious looking pincers. Some kind of fly larvae, there's lots of stuff, and I do not by any means profess to be an expert. I really, a lot of the time don't really know what I'm looking at, but that's what I love about it. I love finding a critter, trying to work out what it is, snapping a photo, and then later that night I can curl up on the sofa with a brew, search on the internet and try and find out its identity. I think the harvestman's actually killed the lacewing larvae. I think there's a real life drama going on in the tomb. Insects and creepy crawlies are often overlooked, but they're actually some of the most important organisms. All of them have a place in the ecosystem. So things that break down leaf litter, that break down rotten wood, things that pollinate all of the plants and the food that we eat. There's so many tiny, minute little interactions everywhere. And once you start connecting with it all, you can just see how it all interlinks, how it all relates, and how important it is as well.
Pine martens are like ghosts. You don't hear them. They just appear and they disappear. We moved into the property in 2005 and quickly realised there was pine martens in the garden by their scats. I borrowed a trail cam, put some peanuts out. It was really exciting. It was like waking up on Christmas morning and opening a present when you download the card. The first night we had Mum and 3 kids come in. It was absolutely brilliant.
From that moment, Robert was hooked.
I've been feeding them every night for the last 5 years.
A keen photographer, Robert was able to capture some intimate shots of the pine martens, but that wasn't the only reason he enjoyed having them in his garden.
I wanted to encourage them in so that I could learn more about them. They're very elusive and there wasn't much information out there about pine martens. Pine martens are generally quite easy to tell apart because of their apricot bib, and it's generally well marked. However, around here, they're very plain. So I tend to go for chips out the ear or markings in their body.
By telling the pine martens apart in this way, Robert discovered there were far more pine martens than his first 4 visitors.
We've had up to 8 individuals coming into the garden in a 24-hour period.
Logging each and every sighting, Robert is able to build up a picture of all the nighttime comings and goings in his garden.
Pine martens are creatures of habit. They use the same paths and they come at the same time every night. It's usually 10 minutes after sunset.
But after 16 years of enjoying these special visits to his garden, Robert has noticed a huge drop in his pine marten numbers.
Over the last 2 years, we've gone from 8 pine martens down to 2 with the occasional male. I believe the reason for that is the COVID lockdown. The adjoining wood is open to the public, and during lockdown, there's hundreds of people been walking around the woods with their dogs, and I believe that the pine martens have moved on. Another reason I think is due to cats. From watching CCTV, I've seen the cats chasing the pine martens, and I've also heard from neighbours of their cats bringing home pine marten kits, which is a real concern.
When I first say it to people that I do photography, they're surprised at first. A couple of years ago I was registered just as partially sighted. Since about 2 years ago I've been registered as severely sight impaired / blind.
Yeah, to your left. Lay up now.
25-year-old Alex was born with a rare genetic condition called Bardet-Biedl syndrome. One of the ways it affects him is that his eyesight is degenerating. He wanted to try photography, and his mum Pam backed him all the way.
When he did want to do it, he came to me and said, "But Mum, I really want to do it." And I said, "Well, give it a go. You know, don't let it stop you." Yeah. So he did.
Alex's passion for wildlife photography has taken him far and wide in search of subjects, such as trips to the Farne Islands.
Look at that one.
Yes, when we got wet,
Soaking
wet from head to toe.
Just a little bit wet.
Yeah.
But one of the best days we've had.
Absolutely soaked.
Red kite roosts and more. Today, Alex and his mum have come to the Wildfowl and Wetland Trust's Washington Wetland Reserve to see if there are any winter birds he can add to his album.
What's the first year you've had? Alex's vision, he's got no peripheral vision. It's like a pin head, but even that isn't a clear pin head. His eyesight is getting worse. Every day it's going to get worse. It could happen so quickly where he could wake up in the morning and it could be gone.
Alex hasn't let this stand in the way of his favourite hobby.
When I managed to take a photo, it's a great feeling inside.
Oh, it's coming over here, Alex.
Which
Bring it over here.
First photograph that I captured was of a cormorant. It was sunbathing on a rock on the lake.
I think the wildlife photos, it's the challenge for Alex. It's landscape photography, it's there. Yes, you can get it in different sort of scenes, but we've got such lovely wildlife, and I think that's what it is. It's a little bit of a challenge for him. Right, it's focused, perfect. Just leave it now.
I know my way around the camera, but my mum might help me in a way of just telling me if my settings is right or if my horizon is straight.
It's on the feeder. Down. There. It's up there now.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. We've just been to Woodland Hide, see what we could find.
I photographed a deer, which felt brilliant.
You never seen one, have you, before?
No.
That was a nice bonus for you.
The jay may have been a first for Alex, but there's another bashful bird he's determined to photograph.
We're going to Saline Lagoon to try and hopefully photograph a little bird what seems to escape a lot of people's eyes, the kingfisher. I'm keeping every part of my body crossed.
The kingfisher has been top of Alex's wish list for a long time.
That's a lovely heron.
But has so far proved elusive.
Kingfisher, kingfisher.
Where?
On the reef.
Where?
Can you see it? I'm so excited.
Once I've captured my photos, I'll go through them and then I'll upload them onto social media to show people that even if you've got a disability, that whatever you want to do, you're able to achieve it. I feel very happy inside because I thought I wasn't going to get to photograph it before my eyes got really bad.
Very proud of Alex because he doesn't give up. He might want to sometimes. I'm going to start crying in a minute. Sorry. Sorry. We've always said he's worse off than others, you know, better off than some. He still can get out and do what he can do. So yeah, immensely proud, very proud. It's been a good day.
Yes.
It has,
very
hasn't it?
Successful.
It does.
Hello and welcome to Winterwatch 2022. Now, I find winter can be a really surprising season. It may be cold and dark, but it can be strikingly beautiful with its stark simplicity. It may not have the drama of nests that spring has, all that raucousness that goes on. It may not have the vivid colours of autumn or the long hot days of summer. But what it does have is a sort of quiet, calm, monochrome feel about it. The days may be short, but if you make the most of those short daylight hours, then you can be rewarded with some real stunning natural beauty. So sit back, relax and immerse yourself in the best of British winter wildlife with some special mindful moments.